Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is my first official video. I'm so excited. I've been wanting to do this for a really long time and finally I'm just doing it. My name is Kelsey. I'm married. I have two children right now. One is a little over 3.5 and one is 20 months old. They're both boys and we are currently pregnant with twins, identical twin girls, so that's really exciting. It was nervous and scary at first, but now we have moved on to the exciting part. With my first two pregnancies, everything went great. I had no complications. I had really easy, pretty quick deliveries with both of them, and I couldn't ask for anything better. Now with these twins, we're having a little bit of some complications. I have what is called twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. Let me explain what that is, and then kind of I'll go through how we found out that we had it and what has happened since we found out that we had it. Twin-to-twin is what happens when you have one placenta. So both babies are only getting blood flow and fluid from one source. So what happens sometimes in a perfect twin, identical twin, monodi twin pregnancy is they're split right down the middle in your placenta and they're both getting the same exact amount of what they need. But obviously it's not a perfect world. And sometimes that doesn't happen. There is a donor baby and a recipient baby, and the donor baby is basically giving. She's so nice that she's just letting the recipient baby get all the good stuff, and she's left with very little fluid and blood and everything like that. What happens is one baby is starting to like little shrink wrapped in there. When you see her on the ultrasound, it's not nice to look at or pretty to see. It's very sad to see that happen. And then one baby has a lot of fluid and they're moving around. So we went to my first trimester screening at 12 weeks. Everything was perfectly fine. They were both healthy, measuring around about the same, maybe 1 or 2 days off, which they say is perfectly normal. We go to 14 weeks, and then at 16 weeks they did find you know, that the fluid was a little skewed between the babies. So it wasn't bad. It wasn't anything out of range yet or anything, but he did want to keep an eye on it. He didn't want it to get bad. So instead of waiting 2 weeks, we would go in the following week to make sure. And I'm going to these appointments alone because of everything with COVID that's going on. So I have to relay all this information to my husband. And of course, when you go online and you look at stories or you just Google twin-to-twin, a lot can come up. Again, we ultimately didn't know that this would, you know, get to that point yet. It was just a concern. So we went in the following week at week 17 and nothing had gone up or down. It kind of had just plateaued and stayed the same, which was, you know, nothing got bad, but nothing got really better either. With twin-to-twin, there's 5 stages of twin-to-twin. If you're in stage 1, you have about a 50% chance of it fixing itself. But once you cross over to that stage 2, it dramatically drops, and most likely you're going to need some type of intervention, surgery, something like that. So we weren't at stage 1 yet, but we were getting to stage 1. Week 18 came around, and that's when baby A's, the donor fluid, dropped to about a 2, which they don't want to see 2 or under is out of range. Baby B, who was the recipient, the fluid wasn't huge. Hers wasn't out of range yet, but it was still a little elevated. The doctor recommended, he wanted me to go to Hopkins, so he wrote me a referral to go to Hopkins. He'll write the referral and then you wait for them to call you, which is like you just want them to call you right away, and of course it takes a day or 2, and thank God they got to me like right away. The next day they had called me, they had looked over everything and said definitely I should come in, I should get checked out by the doctors down there. Saying they got me in on that Monday. So we went in on Monday morning. Again, my husband drove me to the appointment. It's about an hour away from our house. My husband drove me to the appointment, but he could not go into that appointment to the ultrasound. So they do a very long, extensive ultrasound. They check everything out. So she definitely saw the trend, and it wasn't good, that they were getting, you know, further and further apart, but it was still too early to really do anything about it. So we kind of just had to sit and wait. It was terrifying, and what if something is going wrong in there or anything like that? So we only had to wait 2 days. I went back on Wednesday. On Wednesday, they saw that baby A, her fluid had dropped to a 0.5, and she had no visible bladder, and then baby B had jumped up to about a 9. She definitely had a lot of fluid around her, and baby A had barely any. She put us in for about 1 o'clock, but with C-sections they had to do in very limited OR space because of what's happening with, you know, COVID. They get me checked in. I go to my labor and delivery room, which is a very weird experience. I have never not gone to the hospital without, one, either just visiting somebody that's in the hospital, or two, having my own kids and leaving with my own kids. So it's very weird to go into a labor and delivery room, know that you're not in labor or anything like that, and you're not having a baby, but they have, you know, it's all set up for somebody who is going to give birth. So it's just a very weird kind of situation that you're in. So they strap on the monitor because they have to monitor if you're having contractions or not. And they have to give you a catheter and everything because you're going into surgery. You are awake during the surgery, but they do numb the belly. All of that, they had to put the IV in. I had to get a COVID test and everything like that. So we probably didn't get into surgery until about 4 o'clock that afternoon. Oh, that was a lot of information. So around 4 o'clock, they took me into the OR. I've never been into surgery besides for my wisdom teeth at the dentist. And with the surgery does come risks, but if you don't have this surgery, you definitely know the outcome of what's gonna happen, and it's not good for either baby. So you kind of just have to take do the intervention, you have to do the surgery, and just hopefully everything goes okay. There is a chance that a membrane could rupture. You know, they might have to, you might lose one if not both of the babies, but again, if you don't do it, the outcome is definitely you would lose both of the babies. So we just had to trust that the doctors, you know, knew what they were doing and could handle this. They numb your belly so you can feel, if you ever had an epidural, you know, you feel all the pressure and stuff, you just don't feel the pain. So you can feel basically everything that they're doing, it's just not painful. They look around with the scope and the ultrasound, and they see the veins and the blood flow between them, the ones that are going back and forth. So what they do is they go in with a laser, and they'll laser off all of the ones that, well, at least from what I understood and in my situation, because literally every story that I've read or anything that I've, you know, researched online, every case is different. They go in and they separate or laser each blood flow that's going back, and hearing the laser go off is so weird, and you can kind of hear it like pop a little bit. I don't know what's going on. The whole thing takes about an hour. They go on with the scope and do what they need to do, and they actually took about 1 liter of fluid out of the one baby's sac, which is crazy to me. Exerting of, I guess that's a word, of the scope and the laser hurt so bad, but that's really the only part that hurt. When they're in there, of course, they're poking and prodding at your uterus, so it does not like it, and it starts contracting like you're in labor. They put me on magnesium, which I've never had, and it makes you very hot and kind of like very lethargic and tired. Since you're only numb here, you're feeling all the contractions in your back, and you're on that table and you're just laying there. You're like, please just make sure that the babies are okay and that these contractions stop, because my back was killing me. But everything went great with the surgery. What I didn't know was that I couldn't have food from like midnight because we weren't sure if we were gonna have the surgery, and if we were, I couldn't eat beforehand. But when you're on magnesium, you're not allowed to eat either. I didn't get off the magnesium until the next morning around 4 a.m. after the surgery, and finally at like 8, the cafeteria was open and Rob was able to go and find me something to eat because I was starving. After I was able to get food, they moved me into a recovery room, and I was able to get off the magnesium and the catheter out, and I was able to get a couple hours of sleep because throughout the whole night, because you're having contractions, they have to come in and check you literally every hour. They have to check your blood pressure, they have to do a bunch of stuff. So I finally got a couple hours of sleep, and then my doctor came in with the ultrasound tech, and they did another ultrasound just to make sure everything was okay. And they found a couple little things which were totally normal for after surgery. One of the baby's hearts was leaking a little bit, and their blood levels weren't even, which is totally normal after they just had all this done to them. They're like, whoa, what is going on? Actually, baby A, the one that had very, very little fluid, started getting, she was above, like she was like a 2.5 or a 3 already, and she had a visible bladder, which my doctor was like, that is amazing, and she's getting extra credit because it's not even 24 hours after surgery and she's already looking so much better. I was able to get discharged later that afternoon, which was amazing. I had to go home and see my boys. I just wasn't able to lift them. I could really lay in bed. They just don't want contractions to start happening. Kind of just lounged around the house for a few days, and then I started to, you know, add a little bit more each day. Then I went back to the doctor to get another ultrasound, and it looked like the heart was doing a lot better in baby B. The blood levels were evening out. The only thing now that we have to worry about is that my membrane where they went into the incision has not reattached to the uterine wall, which can cause some problems like rupturing a membrane, water leaking, all that kind of stuff. We were hoping that it would reattach. My doctor saw me on a Monday, and then because the following Monday was Memorial Day, he wanted to see me on that Friday because he didn't want to go over a week because of the membrane not attached. We went back on Friday, this past Friday, and again it still had not reattached. Everything else was looking really good with the babies. Their hearts were looking great, the blood levels were evening out, fluid for both of them were about even, but the membrane still hadn't reattached. And at that point my doctor said it most likely will not reattach, and we just have to make sure my water doesn't break, as he put it. I asked, I said, is there anything that I should be concerned about, like not lifting anything, or should, he's like, just make sure your water doesn't break. He said at that point there's really nothing that you can do about it. It's just, if it's going to happen, it happens. At this point where we are, I go for my next follow-up appointment tomorrow, and if everything, you know, still keeps looking good, the only thing that's wrong is the membrane not attaching, I can go back to my regular doctor here close to home, and we'll just keep doing follow-ups every week with him. There's a few things that are concerning about the membrane not reattaching. Like I said, the water leaking, the membrane rupturing, going into labor early. So the membrane can get wrapped around the babies. They can get entangled with each other, because before everything was tight and up against the uterine wall. Now it's kind of just floating there. No, it's okay.
Has he been crying long?
Like 5 minutes. You can go in. No, you can get them. They said it's very, very rare. It's never happened at Hopkins before that the membrane wrap around an arm or a leg, but again, it could happen. So they have to tell me that. So tomorrow we'll go for my anatomy scan. Kind of covered everything. I think I did. I went through everything. It's been a very short span process, but it feels like it's been so long. and we just want to get past this. And every time I feel like I go to the doctor, like they'll give me good news, but then something else came up. So we're just hoping that, you know, my water doesn't break. Oh, my mother has been amazing. She's been there for every single day. Get a burst of energy and think like, oh, well, let me do this and this and this, and then I lift like weight up, and then I put them down, and then I feel really tight in my tummy. She's been a godsend. She's been over here, she's been doing my dishes, she's been cleaning up after the boys. It's been amazing. But we're hoping that we get good news tomorrow, and then I'll be able to get transferred back over to my regular doctor, and everything will be all good. I hope you follow along with us on our journey. Please give this video a thumbs up and please subscribe. Thank you guys. Bye.